now move on to our next partner presentation. May I now invite on stage Mr. Sumeet Doshi, MD UKG India, to speak on operationalizing equity and inclusiveness for all. Can we clap and welcome him, everybody?
To you. Once upon a time, in a magical place, people start work with a smile on their face. Some build palaces with giant metal machines, while others cook up enchanting cuisines. But every great workplace, big or small, make people their purpose and bring happiness to them all.
Make your fairy tale workplace a reality with workforce management software from UKG.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know we are all running a little late, so I'll try and be a little quick. It's probably going to be a slightly different presentation to all that you've been hearing or will be hearing, because we are not a manufacturing company. We are a software company, but we deal in technologies that help manufacturers manage their workforce better. So I think it's going to be of some relevance to all of you, and I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how as a company we help some of the largest manufacturing organizations in the world. So just a quick minute on or 30 seconds on UKG. You must be wondering what this name UKG is all about. Believe me, it's not upper kindergarten. It expands to Ultimate Kronos Group. For some of you, if you have heard a company called Kronos in the past, we merged with a company called Ultimate and we became UKG. UKG is the largest workforce management software company in the world. And when we talk of workforce management, it's all about managing your workforce efficiently on the shop floor. So some of the largest manufacturers in the world, whether it's Tesla or Unilever or Nestle or Toyota, Honda, General Motors, some of the largest manufacturers in the world or in India actually use these solutions to better manage their workforce. And I think it's of huge relevance for all of you, given where we as a country, as an economy are going. So before I get into more details, I want to actually run a video, which I'm sure you'll like. Okay, so I mean, a lot of these stats, many of you would know. Those are some phenomenal numbers, right? To me, the biggest difference, or the one that actually grabs the most attention in that video, is about how manufacturing is going to grow. IT has done extremely well in the last 30, 40 years, and it continues to grow at a good pace. Digitization, all that will continue. But how manufacturing is going to grow and how all of you are going to grow is going to be the big story for us in the next 10 years. And that's exactly where people come in. Mr. Anil in his keynote actually spoke a lot about talent and how do you manage talent in manufacturing and how do you do better. And that's just so absolutely relevant. So I'm going to spend some few minutes around how you can better manage your talent. What are some of the trends you will see around managing talent in the coming years? And I'd like to break that up into three key parts. I'm not sure if this is, okay, this is working now, sure, sorry. So the future of work will require manufacturers to focus on three key areas when it comes to managing your workforce better. And I'll spend some more time on each one of these. Driving business continuity, not the business continuity of 2020 where you didn't know if your factory would work because of the pandemic and you drove business continuity. We're talking of the future where you're probably seeing phenomenal growth and you've got to make it happen. Compliance, regulation, again, Mr. Anil spoke a lot about it, and I'll spend a few more minutes there. People compliance will play a very, very big role, apart from many other things. And cultivate a safe and engaged workforce. So I'll spend a few minutes on each one of this, so let me jump through this slide. So let's talk of the productive, I don't know, this seems to be, let me blow this whole slide up. Yeah, so drive business continuity. As a manufacturing organization, many of you will grow at a pace that has never been seen. I'm working with some customers here in India who probably will grow 3, 4, 5 times their employee size in the next 5 to 7 years. I've never seen that in the last 15 or 17 years of selling workforce management solutions to manufacturers in India. So some companies are gaining that pace because of the growth that that the country will offer and the global market will offer, right? But then the key will come in when you're going to grow your workforce so rapidly. You're going to hire that talent, develop that talent. You've got to be able to optimally utilize that talent, right? And that's one of the challenges we see a lot of manufacturers face. Against a production plan, how many people do you need in a certain shift? What skills are available? Who's not available? How do you create the most optimal schedule for your blue-collar employees, maybe for your contract employees? How do you have real-time visibility into your workforce on the shop floor, saying at the start of a shift at 7, how many were supposed to come in, how many have come in? Is there a gap? That is the manning exercise you do at the start of a shift, which takes 20, 30 minutes. Can you do that in real time? These are things that will help you drive better resource utilization. These are things that will help you drive better productivity. And this will not be a nice to have. This is something that you've got to bring in because you will be driven by competition locally. You will be driven by competition globally. You will have to be more efficient. And as organizations, you've invested a ton on being more efficient through a variety of processes, TQM, TPM, Kaizen, but people remains a finicky factor in every organization. A machine can be optimized to an absolute level and probably it won't complain. A man might complain, right? So how do you manage a man better, get better out of the person, yet create a safe and engaged workforce, which I'll talk about in the subsequent slides. So managing resource utilization will become a key. It's always been important. It just will become so much more relevant. Connected to that will, of course, be labor cost. You do not want your labor cost to grow at the same scale as your turnover grows or your profitability grows. No, every company would want to drive more profitability. So how do you, and labor costs are going to grow, right? If as a country we are going to become better and better in terms of our per capita, the only way that can happen is all your employees earn more, all my employees earn more. So labor costs are also going to grow. And we need to let that happen for the standard of living to improve. But at the same time, we've got to manage our output as best as possible. So these two will be extremely critical factors to drive business continuity from a people perspective, and that's where technology comes in. AI-driven technology, workforce management technology that we deal with it, for example, helps organizations optimize and better manage their workforce on the shop floor on a day-to-day basis, which we see a lot of manufacturers struggle with. That's the first area. The second area that I would like to get into is compliance risk, and I kind of broke it up into 3 parts, and I'll explain that. Mr. Anil also in his morning talk did talk about regulation coming in. As many of you will become bigger and bigger, many of you will go global as well. Many of you will also be as again he mentioned, I'll use his term, will be the factory to the world. And if we are going to be the factory to the world, we will be subject to audits and whatnot from a whole lot of international customers, right? So compliance could be broken up into 3 parts. Social compliance. Social compliance is not exactly driven by the government, but if you are providing something to a customer, let's look at the Foxconn Apple case. It was Foxconn not managing their labor compliance well that created issue for Apple in America, right? So your customers in America or Europe will not accept compliance lapses around people as you get deeper and deeper into business engagements with them. So that's social compliance. There will be so much more visibility, whether locally or globally, into your business as you become bigger, which means you need to have better management of some of these aspects. Local compliance, straightforward, whether it's your state, city, village, country that you're working in, there are regulations that will become stricter and stricter. There is a labor code in India that is about to go active and so on. So all of that will play an important role in how you better manage your workforce. And global compliance. What does global compliance mean? Many of you will go global too. Many of you are global. Many of you will go global, will have plants in a whole lot of other countries. And the labor compliance in each one of these countries is so dramatically different that you've got to be able to use technology to be able to handle some of these potential lapses that can happen. How can you be more proactive about you meeting compliance rather than you doing some after-the-fact post-mortem analysis when something has possibly already gone wrong? So this is like the basement, the foundation building that you need to do, and everyone works on compliance, I get it, but at the same time, this is going to become so much more critical as you go on, highlighted amply well by Mr. Anil also in the morning. So compliance is going to be a big trend. Regulation, managing your regulation better is going to be a big trend over the next few years. Investment in it through technology is the important part. And third part, and I'll spend a little more time on the third part in fact, is while we are talking of resource utilization, optimization, labor cost, it all feels like you're trying to use the resource like a machine and kind of squeeze him out or her out. But those days are gone, frankly, right? We've reached a point in our work, and I've spoken to a lot of manufacturers who accept this also. We've reached a point where we all know, at least post the pandemic, it became even more apparent that you've got to take care of employee engagement so much more. And this creates this sort of dichotomy in the mind. Do I need to focus on getting enough optimization and productivity from my workforce, squeeze them out, if you will, or do I need to create a safe and engaged workforce? And frankly, they are not two ends of a stretched elastic or a band. They stay together. And let's talk about it a little more. I want to start off on this with a piece of data that was compiled by Great Place to Work. Many of you are Great Place to Work certified organizations, so you know what Great Place to Work is. Great Place to Work is owned by UKG as a company, just so that you know. GPTW ran this survey over many, many years to see how GPTW companies, the Great Place to Work companies, the best places to work companies perform against their peers who are not the best places to work. The result is absolutely phenomenal. For companies that get qualified as Great Place to Work, where employees say, I love working for this company, the companies provide a return of 3.23 times more than an average company, right? So there is a very clear outcome, clear productivity outcome. There is a very clear profitability outcome for a company when the employees say this is a great place to work. And in manufacturing, when you have to make a great place to work, it cannot be a great place to work just for your white-collar employees, for your people sitting in those big glass buildings. It has to be a great place to work for everyone, for all, as we call it. It has to be a great place to work for your blue-collar employees. In India, we have a ton of contract employees. They have to enjoy working. That's when they will deliver more, right? So that's how important it is. And as I said, it's not a balancing act, frankly, between cost optimization, productivity, and employee centricity, flexibility at the workplace. It's not necessarily a balancing act. And I'll give you a few examples of how this actually is not a balancing act and how technology can help. When we talk of, and there was this mention that Suman also mentioned a few minutes back, we as organizations are moving towards driving more equity and inclusiveness for our people in the organization. And it's not just equity and inclusiveness in terms of bringing more women to the workforce. Yes, it's a given, we've got to do that. But how do we drive more equity and inclusiveness for our workforce in general? How does my blue-collar and contract employee feel more included along with my white-collar employee? Have we thought of that, right? These are things that create issues. I'll give you some examples. Eliminate bias. Let me give an example of a bias on the shop floor that happens every other day, advertently or inadvertently, knowingly or inadvertently. It's called scheduling, sweetheart scheduling. There will be enough cases where an employee gets scheduled by his manager, his or her manager, for shifts that the person does not like, and another employee gets the shift that he or she likes, purely because maybe there's an equation between the manager and the employee, or it could be just done by mistake. When this thing happens, it's a very small thing on the shop floor, and you probably will say it's a small one-off occurrence. Think of the employee who's constantly getting the wrong side of this deal, and when he's comparing it with the employee who's constantly getting the best shifts, it starts inducing in his mind that there is an equity issue. I'm not being treated equitably, fairly. And you start creating issues around his motivation. And that cascades. And if that builds even a little more from 1% to 5% and 10%, then you don't know when it can cascade into something much bigger. So eliminating bias, a very small bias of this sort, is possible, but at a human level, at times you might just do it by mistake. Because perceptions are different. A manager might think I'm doing absolutely everything fine, but he's working on his thought process and his perceptions. That is where data comes in. That is where technology comes in. That is where a solution like this can actually highlight, hey, this guy has not been given a night shift at all, seems to be only going in morning shifts. I think you need to change that pattern, right? Very simple, small thing, but it will try it. One example. This is one example of eliminating bias. It could be overtime. It could be giving leaves, approvals to employees. It could be an array of things in an organization which could all have bias built into it purely because of perceptions of the manager that's managing it. So when we talk of equity and inclusiveness, one of the thought processes that comes in is, hey, that's an HR job. Absolutely no. As a business leader, I know it, that driving equity and inclusiveness in my organization, and I'm not a manufacturing organization, but every organization, driving equity and inclusiveness in my organization is my job, right? All you business leaders here coming in from manufacturing, it is your job to see how you are better managing your workforce. The more happy your workforce is, the more you're moving towards that 3.23x. And one of those aspects is this, for example. Another example, flexibility. This came into being a little more after the pandemic, right? In the post the pandemic, even in manufacturing organizations, you have your support functions like IT and HR who get this flexibility to work from home. The IT guy will say, if you don't give me work from home, I'll leave and go to UKG maybe, right? You have no choice, that's happening. But does that mean you can't provide flexibility to your manufacturing workforce? The flexibility needs to be different. It does not mean that he will work from home. But can you provide flexibility to a manufacturing workforce in terms of when he would like to work his shifts? For example, today we have the opportunity where on a mobile phone, an employee, blue-collar employee can say, in this next 2 weeks, these are the open shifts available. I would like to select these 5 shifts, 10 shifts, because on a Monday morning, I need to maybe do something, so I'll go on a Monday evening. You're passing on some flexibility to your last mile employees, and that is intentional work-life balance. You're not just driving that for your white-collar employees who have put the gun on your head in a certain sense, saying, karna hi hai, but you're driving that for the rest of the employees also, saying, hey, here's flexibility for you, and we understand your life, we understand that you have a life, you have to go out and manage your family, please see what you can do with this. So you can actually drive this, but can you drive this manually? Think about it. Can a manager do this manually for his 50, 100 employees in a shift? Impossible. The only way to do that is through technology, and better yet, through AI-infused technology. So that's an example of how you can drive, again, better equity, better inclusiveness, and so on. Track indicators that matter. When you're scheduling employees, I won't go into details of this slide here, but when you're scheduling employees, you schedule on your business need. You schedule on maybe when he's available, not available. Do you schedule on his or her preferences? Generally not. Again, think about it. Scheduling is a very complicated mathematical problem. We make it easy by doing an ABC shift, etc. But what we miss out are things like employee preferences, right? Can we take into account some of these things and run a schedule? You can do that so much more easily with technology in place, like this tool, which will actually take into account this and give you the best possible. I'm not saying it will meet 100% requirements of every single employee. That can never happen. But it will give you the best possible outcome, which you can then work with your employees to say, hey, this is where we've tried to give you your completion. There you see, it's a 94% fit to preferences, not a 100% fit, right? So these are things that you can do with technology. And now if I connect this back for a moment to the initial piece I said, all of this will help you drive, with better scheduling, will help you drive better resource utilization, better productivity, better cost management. You will have better visibility on the shop floor. All that is happening. But at the same time, by using some of the added capabilities of technology, what you're also trying to drive is giving employees a little more choice. And that's the balancing act that actually tech can do for you, digital can do for you so much better. The outcome of this, if you become a great workplace, right, your employees need to tell great workplace. I know of a few people in this room who are a great place to work certified manufacturing company. And the way Great Place to Work survey works is that the survey is even sent to the last mile employees, to your blue-collar employees too, and they have to rate you well, right? So when that happens, if all of them are batting for you, the outcomes are so different. I'll not go into each one of these, but let's say productivity, 81% versus 52%. And the outcomes across each one of these, agility or retention or recruitment, people are retained better. Across each one of them is so high. We all know we retain more people, they are trained, they deliver better. Every time, if you have to churn your employees there was a time when in BPOs, many of you would know, the BPOs would churn 120% of their workforce in 1 year. They used to have attrition rates of 10% a month. I know manufacturing does not go through it, but think about it for a moment. Every time you're churning the entire organization in a year, the amount of training investment that you have to make. Same applies in a much smaller scale to manufacturing. When people will begin to leave, you have to bring new people to train them, invest in them. The same person staying longer just delivers so much more for you, right? So how do you make your organization a great place to work, yet drive enough productivity and utilization is a balancing act that as leaders, manufacturing leaders, you've got to think about more than your HR. You've got to ask your HR that this is what I need to do to make my place a much better place to work. So that said, we can operationalize equity and inclusiveness for the organization. It's a happier outcome for all, a better profitability, employees are happier, they get paid better, they service their customers better. So it's good for business, it's good for people, and it's good for the world. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me. Look forward to talking to all of you in the break. Thank you.
Can we clap for him once again, everyone? We'd like to thank him. And to do the honors, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Hafiz Sheikh, Business Head, ITP Media India, to please come forward and present a bouquet to Mr. Sumeet.